Everyone, in just a second, I'm going to be introducing author Lucy V. Hay, all the way from England. This is going to be the third time that I'm talking with her, and I get so excited. She is amazing. You are going to love her if you haven't seen her before. We're going to talk about this book that came out this month called Toxic, and it's a YA novel. And if you try to, there are other books that I want to talk to her about that I didn't even get to talk to her about the last time I talked to her, which was like in July. So if you're trying to keep up with Lucy on writing books, good luck, because this woman can write books. Okay, so we're going to be talking. She loves to talk about anything writing, and she is so smart. She's a screenwriter. She's an author. I don't know what else to say about her. You're going to love her. Everyone, here is Lucy. Hi everyone, I am so excited because I'm speaking with author Lucy V. Hay again. We're talking about her brand new book called Toxic. It came out in January and she has a copy of it right there. She's going to hold up for us.
There it is.
Yay! And we're also going to talk about another book that she wrote back in August. I can't keep up with your books, Lucy.
Yeah, I suppose I am quite prolific, really, and yeah, sometimes I can't keep up either. I actually did publish it in August, but I don't think I started kind of really promoting it in earnest because it's a free. This one, the How Not to Write Female Characters, is just an ebook that's available via my website at bangtowrite.com, and it's an ebook that I kind of pulled together and republished about all the female kind of tropes and character role functions and weird pet peeves and stuff that I see so much as a script editor in the script pile, because of course so many writers now are finally switching on to the idea that, you know, female people are in their audience, you know, up to 50% of the audience is female, and maybe we deserve a little bit more variety in the way that we're represented on screen, because especially women who aren't white or straight or able-bodied, because at the moment, you know, even now, there's still a very strong bias towards white female characters, even in the age of more diversity, maybe in male characters. So yeah, we just need more variety. That's all we need. So yeah, that's why I pulled that one together.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought, well, since they announced the Oscar nominations this week, over here.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I thought, well, it's awesome to be able to talk to you because you always have such interesting insight into that stuff as a screenwriter. And I thought it was really, like, I thought it was a really good list. I was really happy with the movies that were, you know, that are up. I think there's like 5 or 6 of them. And and female characters. I was like, you know what? I think it's happening. You know, it does need to be more, but it feels like it's on the other side of, at least there are a lot of female characters that are, you know, carrying movies.
Yeah, I think it's good in one sense, because I mean we've had quite a lot of controversy in previous years. You know, hashtag Oscars so white, started by April Rain, for instance, and I thought that was, you know, really justified, because the Oscars for such a long time was so white all the time, and so we're finally seeing some kind of push forwards now with things like Wins for Moonlight. I think was it last year or the year before, and of course the nominations this year are, you know, we've got Black Klansman and Black Panther up as well. Spike Lee has finally got a nomination, you know, after decades in the trenches, you know, and his output's been, you know, whether you love him or loathe him, his output has been really consistent, and to have only just got an Oscar nomination now is just, it's pretty crappy, really, that it's taken this long. But you know, it's a start, and that's good. It's disappointing that women have been passed over as directors yet again. You know, there's only been one winner ever in the best director category, and women are nominated so infrequently. It's just insane. You know, the notion that female filmmakers don't make good films, or as good films as standard, is just ridiculous. And also, again, we're talking about, you know, a racial disparity as well.
Right.
On top of that, we get this kind of either or all the time. It's we've got diversity for men, or we've got white women, and it's like, why can't we have diversity across the genders and across the races as standard? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Black Panther saying, does it deserve an Oscar nomination, all this kind of stuff. And I find it really frustrating that Black excellence is passed over so frequently, and people will say, oh, it's a gimmick, it's superheroes, it's just for, representation purposes, it's not because it's a really good film that people really responded to, that made a massive cultural impact. It's like it did all of those things, and yet somehow it's a gimmick, and it's like, it drives me crazy. And it's time for all these things that everyone's talking about in isolation. And when I say people, generally I mean white people, to actually bring all these things together in a cohesive way and say, we should be celebrating excellence, not just white excellence all the time, and or male excellence all the time. Everything needs to be more cohesive, and just stop with the box making all the time. Everything's all over the place, and it's like, just bring it together.
Yeah, did you see Black Klansman? Did you see Spike Lee's movie?
I read the book, and I love the book, and I haven't actually caught up with the movie yet, unfortunately, because I don't think it's been. I mean, you have to remember, I live in the middle of nowhere, so I get all the blockbusters first, and I have to wait for the indie films, which can be really frustrating. So I'm frequently behind with the indie films and with the dramas and all that kind of stuff, but I always make sure I catch up. So I'm a little bit behind still with Black Klansman, but it gives me a great chance to, because so many of them are adapted, of course, in the indie film world. So I always try and make sure that I read the book and then I watch the film, because I love adaptation, and I love to see the differences and try and kind of guess at all the different reasons that they might have made choices, between, because they're two different mediums. You've got novels, and then you've got movies, and then you've got, visuals versus the psychological, all that kind of stuff. And I love to kind of try and weigh up and guess what might have happened between, in the creative process. Because I find adaptation really, really fascinating. Because obviously, being a novelist and a script editor, I feel like I know those two worlds, and sometimes I can guess quite effectively what's happened or has had to happen, so that when I see a screenwriter who's adapted a book, I go, oh, was it this? And then they say, and very frequently they say, yes, it was, and it's like, oh, yay, it's kind of like adaptation bingo. I love it.
Well, I rented it on Amazon last night because I wanted to see it, because I didn't get to see it either, and I didn't realize that Denzel Washington's son is the lead.
Oh, okay.
Maybe everybody else in the world knew that, but I didn't know that. Oh my God, he is amazing. I like crazy. And then you're like, of course he's amazing. Like, why wouldn't he be, right? But you'll have fun when you get it. It is on Amazon Prime, but if you can't get that, then you have to wait a little bit. But
yes, I haven't seen it on Amazon Prime yet. It's maybe it hasn't hit the UK yet. I don't know, but or maybe it did recently and I've just missed it. But yeah, certainly it's going on the watch list, and I'll be watching it very soon.
Yeah, I loved it. But anyway, let's talk a little bit of Toxic too, because what I love about your writing and about your books is, and I always want to ask you this, is like, especially your YA novels. I mean, they're amazing, and I love YA. I love YA. It makes me feel 15 again. Like, that's just what happens. Because as I'm reading it, I'm like, I'm that 15-year-old girl who was waiting for a book in the library, to come out. And but you write so much fiction and so much nonfiction. Like, do you have a hard time going between the two? Like, when you put that hat on, are you like, okay, today is, I'm writing Toxic, and that's what I'm going to do today?
Yeah, I guess I do kind of carve up my time between fiction and non-fiction. I think most people would have to. I think I think 90%, I mean, there's obviously like really talented people who can do whatever they want, but in terms of kind of getting in the right headspace, for me, I've got to kind of compartmentalize between fiction and non-fiction, because I just get too caught up in, various things. Like, in fiction, you can get like really into the character's mood, and you can get really upset or really joyful or whatever it is you get, because you're kind of like the protagonist, really, aren't you, when you're writing fiction. But you're the director and the protagonist and the producer and the director of photography. You're all of those things in fiction, whereas in non-fiction, I don't know if I ever really kind of turn it off, because I'm always on Facebook and I'm always blogging and I'm always writing tweets and all that kind of stuff. That said, I do schedule a lot of it. So probably if I worked out how many hours a day I spent on fiction versus non-fiction, I think I would probably, there would be some days where I'd write hardly any non-fiction at all, because I've written it, in a much bigger block on a different day. Because a lot of my tweets, even my rants on Twitter and Facebook, a lot of them are scheduled. Here's a rant I prepared earlier. Very often people are like, I sometimes get messages going, God, are you all right? I saw your rant. You seem really angry. I'm like, I'm fine. I wrote that like 2 weeks ago. No problem. Yeah. So I think I probably do have to compartmentalize between the two of them, because they're such different worlds in so many ways, and I find fiction a lot harder. Which I always find it really interesting when other authors come up to me and say, "Oh wow, you write non-fiction, that's amazing," and I'm like, really? Because I don't find it that hard. I suppose I've got into the kind of mindset, and the blogging mindset in particular, and it's something that is like breathing to me. I'm a teacher, and Bang to Write is educational, and I want to share the knowledge, and I want to share the remit of including more marginalized voices and more marginalized characters and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like the thing that I do. It's kind of become second nature. Maybe if I were to write something else, and something else that was non-fiction, I would find it harder, especially something that needed to be researched, a historical event or something like that. Maybe I would find it harder then. But because I'm writing all the time, I'm researching all the time, I'm researching characters, I'm researching structure, all that kind of thing, it kind of cross-pollinates one another. So yes, I do, and I don't. So that's not really very helpful. But I mean, I'm lucky because I'm freelance, so I can kind of do what I want. Sometimes I do find it much more kind of taxing to write fiction. So if I'm particularly tired, or I'm really peed off about something, I probably won't write fiction, whereas I probably can write non-fiction whenever I want, really, because I've kind of got into the habit of it. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well,
yes, I know.
I was thinking, like, for you, like you said, nonfiction, when I read your nonfiction, it does feel like you're just speaking what you know. You're putting it, and some of the things that I read on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm like, you could keep some of that in files and like put them together, in a book, and, because it is like just, I don't know, it feels to me like what you do. Like you are a teacher and you like to teach people how to write. And that's why those nonfiction books come out so easy for you.
Yes, possibly. And also I use social media as like a testing ground. Right. So if I write a post that, that gets a very bad response. And when I say bad response, people aren't talking about it. People aren't engaging with it. It hasn't had that many hits, that kind of thing. Then, yeah, I tend to kind of retire them, and I might even delete them altogether. Sometimes blog posts come back to life. Sometimes people just aren't ready to hear it. And then like 2 years after that, it suddenly goes crazy. I mean, I wrote one post in like 2014 that suddenly came alive last year. And I don't really know why. I think somebody must have shared it in a newsletter or something like that. because people were hitting the actual link that someone must have shared, and I got like 2,000 hits in one day, and I've no idea where they came from. And since then, it's just been going and going and going and creating momentum. Yet before that, it couldn't get arrested. No one was interested in it. It's sometimes there is a zeitgeist and an interest in a particular subject or in a particular craft element. When I started writing about race, for instance, a lot of the writers in England in particular just weren't interested. They just didn't get it. They just didn't see what the point was. They were finally getting on board with the female character element, and I think I possibly just rushed them a little bit, and from going, okay, white women, now what about women of color? What about trans women? What about these other? And everyone was like, whoa, just give us a minute, just give us. I'm not getting it. And then suddenly, just before I was asked to write the book on diverse characters, suddenly the internet just exploded. How to write diverse characters kept bringing people to my blog all the time. And that's why when the publisher said, did I want to write another non-fiction book, I was like, yeah, because there's no books on how to write diverse characters, and I'm getting all these thousands of hits to my website, and yet on Amazon, I mean, there might be some more now, but at the time of writing my book, mine was the only one, which was like, this is crazy. Right. So got to get on top of that and try and the interest was there, and obviously it's not all philanthropy. I obviously want people to read my books and buy my books, but on top of that, I think it's important. I think writers are shaping the world that we live in and reflecting the world that we live in, and we should be reflecting that accurately, and I think a lot of the time we're not. Because we're missing loads of stuff out, especially disabled characters and characters of colour in particular. And there's a lot that we need to learn, and we all need to learn. I mean, I'm not an expert, I'll often do my talks and stuff, and, I'm not an authority on, the Black or Asian experience, for instance. How can I possibly know that? But, at the end of the day, we can only do our due diligence and do things properly and pledge to do it properly, and actually listen and do proper research and actually ask people what their experiences are and engage with them on the ways that they prefer, and do our best. A lot of writers get very het up, and a lot of white writers in particular, and say, oh, we're being stopped from writing our stories. It's like, no one is asking you to not write anything. We're just asking you to do it properly and not propagate harmful myths and stereotypes and just boring, politics aside, morality aside, personal responsibility aside, it's boring. Doing the same thing over and over again is boring. So stop boring us. I'm bored. I'm bored of all this samey crap. Give me something different. Give me something fresh. Give me something authentic. That's what I want. That's what I need. And that's what the average person wants from storytelling. And it shouldn't be this hard. But we've made it this hard for reasons I don't know. And we can make it better. So let's make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking, when I read like your YA novels, I think about your daughters, because they're getting older now. And I'm like, how did they feel about their mom writing YA novels?
Oh, they don't care. They don't care. Each time, I mean, when I got proof positive, the first one about teenage pregnancy, through the post, I was like, back, oh my gosh, it's because I mean, I love this book. It's the first book that I ever sold, and this is a reissue.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, my middle child is at an age where she would appreciate this. Yay! Yes. And so I gave her a copy straight away, and she was like, oh, thanks. And I'm like, but okay, fine. She thinks that everybody's mum writes books. Okay, I can get with that. And so like 6 months later, I say, have you read it? So I didn't even rush her. And she went, I read about 30 pages. And I was like, what did you think of it? And she went, I don't know, it's a bit embarrassing, really. It's about pregnancy. I'm like, oh God, way to harsh my mellow, man. So I mean, this one is even dedicated to her because it's about bullying,
Yep.
frenemies, and she suffered very badly in the transition from sort of like primary school, so elementary school, over to high school. And so I even dedicated it to her, and I thought, well, she's going to be well impressed by that. So because all right, I understand that you might not be that interested in your mum's kind of views of teenage pregnancy if you're 12. I get that.
Right.
So I thought, well, this one's going to be really relevant. It's about bullying, about frenemies. It's about sometimes doing the wrong thing. All the girl stuff that's really important when you're growing up a girl. And I thought that she would be really interested in this. And I gave her copy last week, and it's in exactly the same place downstairs. I'm like, you little cowbag. You're not interested at all.
And
Damn you.
Lucy, we feel part of you because of your family, because you always put the most funny things that your kids say. And so I'm just like thinking in my head as I'm reading this, I'm like, I wonder what they said. I wonder what they said about, about this book. I wonder if she like followed them around and listened to them and were like, oh, that's good. I'm going to write that down. And, like.
I do write stuff that they tend to say down, but all of they're pretty flamboyant, as you might have noticed from my Facebook statuses. Pretty much a lot of what they actually really say, I couldn't put in a book because I don't think people would believe it. I mean, the middle one was doing a younger sister's hair. I think it was the other day, and little one was going, "Oh, get off! You're pulling my hair! All how girls do." And I said, "Oh, if she doesn't want her hair done, don't make her have her hair done." She's like really into hair, the middle one, and she goes, "Oh well, she has to understand. She's my living doll." She's not your living doll. She is not a toy. And it's like, why am I saying this? Why am I even? Oh, they're crazy. But yeah.
That what I have two daughters too, but they're 4 years apart. I don't know how many years are apart, but I went through the same thing with the hair in middle school, high school, like right around that age. She would use my younger daughter, and when my younger daughter didn't want to, she would come to me and be like, she won't let me do her hair. I'm like, okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah, there's like 5 years between them, so yeah, it sounds like you know exactly how it goes. And she's dreadful as well. She uses the little one as like a little butler. It's like, go and fetch me this, go and fetch me that. It's like, I don't know how long that's going to last because little woman's 7 now, and she started to rebel. She started saying, "No, I'm not getting your shoes. I'm not getting your hairbrush. I'm not getting your whatever for you." And it's like the world has ended. It's like the middle one's like, "What? You're not fetching me my shoes?" Oh, because she's very dramatic.
Yes. Yeah, they're now in their 20s, my daughters. I went shopping with them recently. They don't watch this, so I can talk about them because they don't watch me. They don't care. But they were trying on dresses because they had an occasion to go to. And whenever I'd be with the one, she'd be like, "Can you believe her? She is being so ridiculous today. I can't stand her." Go to the other one. She's like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, tell her to shut up. She is not being..." I was like,
yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. And I just say nothing.
Relating
I'm like,
to this so hard.
I love the life of watching my daughters, but I didn't have a sister, so it's more amusing to me, I guess, than most people. But but I love. I don't know what I would do without your Facebook page, because sometimes I just laugh out loud because you'll say, "This conversation really just happened in my house."
Oh yeah. Sometimes kids, and you end up saying the weirdest things. It's just bonkers, and it's like like your sister is not a toy.
I know, you're like, I just said that, like. Well, I was so happy to read Toxic. It is really, really good. I love your YA.
Oh, thank you.
If they were teenagers, I'd be giving them to them right now, because when they were teenagers, I was having a really hard time because back then vampires were so big in YA. Like it was that paranormal vampire, whatever. And I'd go into those sections and I'd get scared. I'm like, oh, I don't want them to read this and be scared. Like I want to give them books that they can relate to, and your books they can relate to. And it makes me really happy for, for you to be writing. And even if they aren't going to read them, like maybe their friends will, and then they'll think you're cool and stuff.
Yeah. I try and give some of them to the school library, that kind of thing.
Right.
So they somebody in this town will read my books.
Well, show us the cover again, because I do love your covers. So even the other one, all your covers, Do No Harm, the Proof Positive. I mean, those are all such great covers. Who does your covers?
Well, these ones were done by the very talented Frina Arts, which is Frina, and that's like a name, and then art, and I think it's just frinaart.com, but I'm not sure. But she's a lady over somewhere in Eastern Europe, I think Bulgaria, and she's just really like super talented. And the publisher of these found her, Litwitz Press, and Lorelei at Litwitz is just brilliant at finding people who are just talented and bringing a package together that looks really awesome. And my Arenda books, my crime fiction, the covers are done by Kid Ethic, and he's a guy over in Brighton. And he's really talented. He's amazing, and does some lovely covers. And obviously, Karen at Arenda is great at making sure that all the Arenda books look awesome. Because I keep thinking that she should do like a one of those coffee table books of all the art for the covers, because all the Arenda books look really lovely and very classy, which is fantastic. Because of course it's got more of a kind of literary bent over at Arenda with their books, so and translated fiction as well, so it goes really well together.
Well, okay, so before I let you go, what are we gonna get next?
Well, I've just released information about my next book, and that will be out in December. It's called Never Have I Ever, and it is actually a crime fiction, although it's got two threads to it. So it's got like a past thread for when they were younger, the characters, and then a present day thread when something happens about to do with the past and something bad has happened, and that's available for pre-order on Amazon already, I've noticed. I'm very excited about that, with a new publisher now, with Hodder, and it's I've been waiting for edits to drop any day now on that, because I've written the first draft, and writing the first draft for me is always a bit of a slog. I'm never really kind of into like the actual literal creation of a draft. I would rather it just kind of appeared in front of me, because I love editing. I suppose it's a script editor in me. And I've noticed with authors, you either love the first draft and hate editing, or you hate the first draft and love is that what I said? Yeah. So, I think I said the same thing twice, because I really love editing so much. But yeah, you love one or the other, and I love the editing part, so I can't wait to get stuck in. And hopefully that should be finished in time for London Book Fair and all those other situations hopefully everything will go according to plan, and my brain won't explode, and maybe I'll write another YA as well. And
I was just going to say, is that one YA or is that adult? Never Have I Ever.
Never Have I Ever is crime fiction, so yeah, it's for grown-ups. It's domestic noir, basically. But I did get to draw on some of my YA kind of experience, because there is a teenage character in it. So it should be fun.
Oh, I can't wait. That means I can talk to you again at the end of the year. I'll read it.
Oh, yeah, please do. No, I always appreciate the fact that you read all my books. It's amazing. Thank you.
Oh, I love your books. So anyway, show Toxic cover one more time. I'm going to have all of Lucy's links. Go on her Facebook. If you are not on her Facebook page, shame on you. You are missing out. Go on her Facebook. Go on her Twitter. I'm going to have all your links listed below. You are hysterical. I love reading all your stuff, so it makes my day. Your posts make my day. Thank you so much, and we will talk soon. As soon as you get that, I will read it early for you.
Oh, thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it. So
Okay.
you have a great evening, and thanks for having me again on Writing Fun.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye, Lucy.
Bye.
Gosh, wasn't that fun? I could talk to her all day. And you know what? Before I even started taping, we talked for like 20 minutes. So that's just how it goes. And I feel like a friend of hers now. We've talked so many times and on social media, and she is hysterical. Love her sense of humor. Like I said, go on her Facebook. I'm gonna have the link listed below, and go if you love YA. I love. As a matter of fact, I think recently I've read a lot of YA, but I love it. I love it so much, and she's amazing writer, and her nonfiction are fun. Really, I mean, even if you're not a writer, if you she like uses movies examples, and it makes the movies more fun to watch. So thank you so much, Lucy. I can't wait to talk to you again. Thanks, everyone.